Online sports wagering has been available to Pennsylvanians for just a few years now, but it has really taken off. 2022 saw record-breaking betting.
It did, and tonight Fox 43's Marshall Keeley takes an in-depth look at how we got here and where we're headed.
Outside of Nevada, legal sports gambling was virtually impossible to find in the U.S. until a landmark decision in 2018 changed betting forever. In May 2018, the United States Supreme Court opened the door for nationwide sports betting, ruling the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act was unconstitutional. It sent state lawmakers and gambling operators into a frenzy.
By late May, applications were coming in, regulations were being written. So Pennsylvania was like fully ready to start launching sports wagering almost immediately.
That same October, Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse created the first legal sports bet in the state. The first online sports book arrived in May 2019. Josh Ercole from the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania says it's quickly changed the betting landscape.
We're talking about a period of, 4 or 5 years here. It's truly remarkable when you think about just how widespread this has become.
Pennsylvania now boasts 19 brick-and-mortar sports books and 14 online sports books. Internationally certified gambling counselor Jody Bechtold says the pace picked up when online sports betting arrived, allowing bettors to wager on everything from the final score of the game to the result of a single play.
All of a sudden you have these microtransactions that you can do so frequently because you're chasing the fact that, you're not going to win that final outcome bet. It's giving that rush, that dopamine release, because it's something exciting, something pleasurable.
It was popular from the start. In 2019, Pennsylvania saw $2.5 billion in total sports wagers, or handle, $2 billion of which came from online sports books. By 2022, that number more than doubled, with $7.25 billion bet on sports in the state, setting a record. Kevin Kyle, director of sports wagering at the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, agrees the high-speed bets are a factor in the growing totals.
Definitely think it contributes to a higher handle because you can wager not only on the outcome of the game before the game starts, but you can also wager in play.
So you think about the fact $7.25 billion in a calendar year, every single one of those dollars was put at risk.
It translates to big gains for operators and regulators.
There's so many beneficiaries of most of the regulated gambling, and quite frankly, the largest being the state.
Sports betting generated more than $400 million in revenue in 2022. Pennsylvania's 36% tax rate for sports betting is the highest in the country. The state also charges operators a one-time $10 million fee for a sports betting license. While the experts we spoke to say online sports betting can be fun and entertaining for many, it's also causing more problems.
It's online and you don't feel your money, you're not handing your money over. That's a perfect storm for people to get in a lot of trouble in a very short amount of time.
If somebody doesn't recognize some of those earlier signs, it may be difficult for them to kind of recover or rebound from some of the losses they're exhibiting.
If you or a loved one are struggling with compulsive gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Online sports betting is a multi-billion-dollar industry in Pennsylvania and continues to grow. Many expected near record-breaking bets on this year's Super Bowl, egged on by countless advertisements and offers. And as Fox 43's Marshall Keeley finds out concerning trends in calls for gambling help, have experts now asking for change.
They're impossible to escape.
You can't turn on the television without seeing it.
Sports betting advertisements are everywhere, appearing online, on TV, on the radio, or on the road.
I don't know that anybody was really truly ready.
Josh Ercole from the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania says it wasn't always like this.
Somebody working at an Erie casino, the Erie property they weren't concerned with somebody who lives in Philadelphia walking into a Philadelphia casino. Once the online options opened up, Now that's very different.
With a new form of gambling came a new base of potential customers spread across the state who may prefer to pick up their phone instead of driving to a casino.
The highest propensity would be in that younger demographic. So I'm sure that that's part of marketing strategies.
A growing number of young adults are betting online, attracted to the action available at their fingertips. Counselor Loretta Vasso says she's seen a change in mentality.
The rite of passage now for 21-year-olds is not so much I'm going to go to a bar and I'm going to have my first drink. It's I'm going to go online and I'm going to make my first bet.
Kevin Kyle oversees sports wagering statewide for the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board.
I think that, the younger demographic just likes the excitement of the games themselves, as opposed to sitting at a slot machine and playing in that manner. I think gradually we're going to see a reduction in the number of advertisements on the media in a similar manner as we saw with fantasy sports about 10, 15 years ago.
For now, the ads are here to stay, and they could be affecting the way young adults and teenagers view betting.
When you have folks who aren't necessarily recognizing it, whether it be because they're not old enough to recognize it, they're not aware that this is an activity with risk, that's where it's really concerning.
Here's internationally certified gambling counselor Jody Bechtold.
And the brain isn't even fully developed until the age of 25. And the last part of the brain to develop is the prefrontal cortex, which is judgment and impulsivity and decision making. You think about a 16, 17-year-old right there, there's a vulnerability in really being able to slow down.
Many young men are drawn in by big introductory offers promising risk-free bets. But the experts we spoke to say there's no such thing.
The limited research that is out now is showing that even 18 to 24 tends to be male sports betting, and is identifying that of that group, right, more individuals are becoming gambling addicted or having a lot more consequences related to that.
The fast-paced highs of sports betting can leave young adults wanting more. Over time, it can get harder for them to feel pleasure, meaning only big risks bring a thrill.
Once your brain starts to respond in that way where you get a big dopamine dump, even at the anticipation phase of gambling, your brain will always respond that way.
Experts say some don't stop betting until they're completely out of money or out of places to go for more, adding to the anxiety and depression many experience.
Research has definitely shown that when people experience severe financial debt due to gambling, they're at greater risk for considering suicide.
Calls to the gambling helpline have more than doubled in the last 2 years. There's been a sharp drop in the average age of callers.
Now what we're seeing is the highest propensity of calls by a lot are coming in from the 18 to 34 range.
In December of 2022, 28% of calls came from people between 25 and 34 years old, the largest total of any age group. 18% came from ages 35 to 44. Cole says many more are reaching out for help through text and chat options. We asked the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board about its review process for sports betting advertisements. Kyle says the agency has an audit team that reviews each ad and could find companies who don't meet regulations, such as failing to mention the gambling helpline. Because there are so many ads, he says, the audit team doesn't review material before it's seen by the public.
We have specific requirements that have to be included in the terms and conditions of promotions. And our goal is to make sure that all promotions are not false, misleading, or deceptive.
Having call 1-800-GAMBLER at the end is good, but they put it all in a positive way. But that's advertising.
Cole is encouraging more companies to change the language in their ads to better reflect reality. You can win big or lose big.
This is an activity. Yes, most people are not going to develop a problem, but some will.
If you or a loved one are struggling with unhealthy gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A growing number of Pennsylvanians are betting online, with the state recording record gambling revenue in 2022. And at the same time, there is an increase in calls for gambling help, specifically among young adults.
Yeah, tonight, Fox 43's Marshall Keeley uncovers a possible hole in a state program intended to prevent those in recovery from causing themselves further harm.
As online sports betting becomes more popular, Joshua Cole from the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania says more bettors are setting limits on the sites they use.
Last I heard, we were somewhere in the 85,000 range in Pennsylvania. 85,000 online gambling account holders have implemented at least one of these self-imposed limits.
While this is a powerful tool for many people, individuals who are struggling with compulsive gambling have other options that can keep them away from gaming altogether. The Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board has offered voluntary self-exclusion for in-person betting since casinos were first legalized in 2006. It's a program that's proven effective for many, taking that temptation away.
Basically, what that allowed for folks to do would be to voluntarily and confidentially ban themselves from being able to access any casino in the state.
The self-exclusion helps them take it off the table. You know, people say, I'm so glad, I thought about gambling the other night, but I knew that I couldn't.
People who sign up for the in-person program can choose to exclude themselves from play for 1 year, 5 years, or forever. No matter which option you choose, you stay on that list unless you want to be removed.
I do not need to do another thing, and I will remain on that program for as long as I live. I would need to request to have my name removed after the 1 year or 5 year term, and I would go through a hearing process.
When online betting was legalized in 2018, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board established another self-exclusion program, as Kevin Kyle, Director of Sports Wagering Operations, explains.
If a patron feels that they should not be gambling or they can't gamble within their limits, they can opt in to self-exclude themselves from every online sports wagering site for a certain period of time, be it 1 year, 5 years, or a lifetime ban.
There's a key difference between the online and in-person programs. If a person chooses the 1 year or 5 year online self-exclusion, they are automatically taken off that list at the end of the period unless they renew. It allows them to resume betting right away, potentially undoing all their progress.
I've been through counseling. I've been going to meetings. I'm working the steps. I'm in a good place right now. The last thing I need is to be reminded of something I need to do. I don't know why that decision was ultimately made. But as you can imagine, obviously it's something that, I don't necessarily think was the best approach.
We posed the question to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board.
When it comes to online betting, you are automatically taken off of that list after your term expires. Why is there a difference there? Why the difference in regulation there?
Marshall, I wish I could answer that question with you on interview. I can circle back with you with our Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling.
A Gaming Control Board representative sent us this response, reading in part, casino self-exclusion has always required the individual to request a removal and for the circumstances of the request to be looked at by staff and board. Since this is a program that is 15 years old and very successful, the thought was not to change that. It continues, quote, the other programs were new, and we believed it was a good opportunity to start fresh on how removals occur and instead have individuals re-enroll or extend their self-exclusion. Still, Cole says the policy could be triggering for some.
So it's just sort of like creating this dangling carrot that, the potential for a problem we feel is just a little bit greater than it needs to be.
Program differences aside, gambling counselor Loretta Vasso says it's up to the individual to decide if they want to recover or not. She suggests anyone wanting to escape compulsive gambling for good should only choose a permanent ban.
If you really want to stop gambling because you recognize that it's destroying your life, then there is no end. Why wouldn't you self-exclude for a lifetime? Are you planning on going back?
The Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board says casino gambling is an in-person form of gambling, and it believes it's important to require individuals who want to be removed from the exclusion program to take the steps to prove they're ready. Meanwhile, the experts we spoke to point out with online gambling, there's no physical barrier, making it easier for people with a gambling addiction to start playing again the moment they're taken off the list. Marshall Keeley, Fox 43 News.